What up, world? It's yours truly, Eric Mazampaka, and I'm here with Lauro Chartrand, director, producer, writer, and performer, Lauro Chartrand-DelValle.
Lauro
Lauro
Chartrand-DelValle.
Lauro Chartrand. What up, world? It's yours truly, Eric Mazampaka, and I'm here with episode 7 of Stunt Corner podcast. Born in Seattle, Washington, director, producer, writer, and performer, Lauro Chartrand-DelValle.
Yeah! You can just call him LASH.
Yeah, LASH.
Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. Don't get it twisted.
Has been a prominent figure in the world of action since 1989. He has worked with and been influenced by some of Hollywood's biggest action stars such as Tom Cruise, Jackie Chan, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Chuck Norris. A true OG and daredevil of the game. Please welcome Lauro Chartrand-DelValle.
Thank you.
How's it going, man?
Good. I'm honored to be here. There's so many wonderful, talented stunt people in this city that I'm happy to come in and be a part of this and get a chance to be a part of it.
Honestly, it's an honor, and a lot of people say giving isn't generally about giving of items. It's more importantly the form of giving that I think is needed right now is time. Giving the time to mentor and pass the knowledge on to this new segment of performers we have. And so thank you for taking the time to just give to us today.
See, it's so different these days. That used to just be a natural thing that just happened. It just evolved that way because it wasn't so crazy busy.
Yeah.
And you could go hustle and you could learn from the stunt coordinators on set, and they were happy to show you the way.
Yeah.
And now it's just like 100 miles an hour, and guys are juggling 3 shows at a time sometimes, or whatever the case might be, and there's so many more performers. You can't pay attention to everybody either, and you got resumes coming at you, and you're trying to, so many people say, I never even get an answer back from them, and it's so busy.
Yeah.
So trying to mentor somebody now is even harder, and then a lot of us have our own kids. Well, that you got to give your family the time too.
Right.
So it's just really, and I got grandkids now too. So it's like,
Well, I'm excited. A lot of the coordinators or people I've talked to that have mentioned you seem like an absolute professional in every aspect of the word. And by that, what I mean is how fucking much of a badass you are. And that's kind of the theme I keep hearing across the board. So last week while I was at lunch, one of the coordinators I was working on said current performers need to be a little more like Lauro. Can you explain to us what you think that means?
I've been a sponge, and it's always was my passion and desire from 8 years old to become a stunt performer.
Yeah.
I mean, my dreams have grown as you know. I've gone into writing and directing and producing and stuff like that, and that's become another passion. But it's grown that way. But my initial dream and my first love is stunts. So everything I do, I pay attention to what needs to be done, what's coming up, what's happening, how the other departments affect our department, and how we affect theirs.
Yeah.
And so if you pay attention to all those things, the whole film family that you're dealing with on set, you can be Johnny on the spot and make sure things happen properly and make your coordinator's job that much easier, right? And also learn how to perform better, We were talking about somebody else the other day, and I said that she's an amazing photographer. What's that got to do with stunts? And I said, what's that got to do with stunts? We live inside of a camera. Everything we do is inside of a camera.
Yeah.
So if you understand angles, lenses, speeds, that helps you when you're a second unit director and a director.
Yeah.
But it also helps you as a performer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you understand how wide that lens is or how tight it is, it can affect your performance and what you need to do to sell a punch or fall down or crash through something, and make sure that it's visually stunning for that shot and that size and that frame and the speed that they might be shooting at. You should be asking these questions as a performer.
Yeah.
And you're, I don't want to ask too many questions. I don't want to, why not? You're learning. You should be learning from the day you step on a set till the day you retire, if you ever retire.
Yeah.
I probably never will, but.
So, growing up in Seattle, how much of your life did you spend there before you moved over to Canada? or
I was only there till I was 6 years old.
oh, you were only
Yeah,
till
yeah.
six.
And then my mother met Paul Chartrand, who was a cowboy that was our trail guide on a vacation we took.
Oh, okay.
And she ended up marrying him.
Oh my God! Wow.
And next thing you know, he showed up in Seattle. Next thing we packed up and we were moving to Canada.
Yeah.
And she bought a ranch in the middle of Saskatchewan, way out in the nowhere.
Yeah.
And we lived in a log house. We had no running water. We melted snow in the wintertime. All of a sudden we had a bunch of cows, a bunch of horses, pigs, chickens, you name it. Milk cow. I learned how to milk a cow. It was just like stepping back in time, living in a log cabin and living the old way. And we hunted and we trapped and we ate what we shot. And, you know, it was really stepping back. And that, to me, that's the era I should have been in. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I somewhat feel out of place in the city and in this, especially the world we're in today.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's why I keep running out to my horses.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Getting away from this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was only there till I was 6, and then I grew up on a ranch in the sticks in the middle of nowhere in northern Saskatchewan in minus 40 below weather and stuff like that. So it was crazy. Yeah.
So what happened at 8 that made you want to be a stunt performer?
My mom took me to a movie in St. Walburg, Saskatchewan. So there was no movie theater there. It was a little town. 100 people sort of thing.
Yeah.
But they had a town hall, and so once a month they would show a movie there. And they just put out the chairs and they'd project it up on the wall. And it was a Chuck Norris movie.
Nice.
And I was like excited watching the movie, and I said, I want to be like that when I grow up. And she goes, like what, Chuck Norris? And I go, no, the guy's kicking through the window. And she's like, oh. Now my mom was from LA.
Yeah.
And she had a little brush with the film industry, so she knew what a stuntman was.
Yeah.
So she said, oh, you want to be a stuntman? And I'm like, what's that, a stuntman? What's that? And I went to the library and I started reading every book I could grab. I was just devouring anything I could find about stuntmen, stunt performing, action, whatever.
Yeah.
And so then the next thing for me was like, okay, how do I get there? Hollywood's on another planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm in the middle of Saskatchewan. How the fuck do you get to Hollywood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my goal and that was my focus. And so I got training in martial arts and I rode horses. I did rodeo. I got a dirt bike, and I had an old Chevy pickup truck that I just rolled and slid around and did shit with,
Yeah.
And it's when you're starting out and you get these guys come up to you as a stunt coordinator now and they go, I'm crazy. You should hire me. You should see the way I drive. I can, and you're like, yeah, but once you're inside of it, that's not necessarily what you're looking for. We all had that in us when we were teenagers and stuff like that, but you gotta contain it, you gotta temper it, you gotta fine tune it.
Yeah.
And that's when those guys are let in, once they got control of that excessive craziness, you know what I mean? You gotta corral it, so to speak.
Yeah, you gotta focus that beam.
So when I saw that movie, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and then it was just how to get there, how to do it, So basically how my transition progressed is I left home when I was 12, and I started working as a trail guide on horses in the mountains and pack trips and hunting trips and stuff like that. Anyway, I knew that wasn't my life calling. I loved doing it, but I had to move on. Yeah. And finally I just said, okay, I'm gonna be a stuntman. And so my sister was living in San Diego, so I went and lived with her. She got married. They moved to San Francisco. Yeah. So I said, can I catch a ride to LA with you? And she goes, yeah, what's with LA? And I said, I'm moving there. I got a place to stay, and I got something. I'm gonna stay with a friend there, and I'm gonna get into stunts. And I was about 16 at the time. Yeah. And so all I had was a backpack, and I actually had some furs that I had trapped. It was like my gold. It was my currency. It was like if I ever got in trouble,
like a movie.
Yeah, if I ever ran out of money, I was going to sell these furs. I had 2 coyotes, a lynx, and a fox. Right. Yeah. Anyway, it was insane. I still got them to this day. I never sold them. But so we were on the 5 highway heading north on the freeway, and I said, right here, you can drop me off right here. And they're in a U-Haul pulling their car going to San Francisco, and she's like, what? What do you mean here? And I said, yeah, just drop me off the side of the highway right here. And she's like, you don't know where you're going, do you? You don't. You bullshitted me. And she started crying. I'm never going to see you again. The city's going to swallow you up. Somebody's going to kill you. And I'm like, no. And of course, no pagers, no cell phones back then or anything. It was just like, I said, don't worry. I'll call Mom when I get settled. She'll call you. We'll reconnect. We'll know how to find each other. And so I started walking. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. And I walked until 11 o'clock at night just going, what the fuck am I going to do? And you're looking at Los Angeles, and I'm just a 16-year-old kid in the middle of nowhere. It's like a new jungle, right? Yeah. Where do I go? I don't know anybody here, right? Yeah. So I just walked and thought. I got to a 7-Eleven, bought a hoagie, got on the phone, and I called a taxi. Taxi shows up, and I said, take me to the nearest hotel to the nearest studio. So they took me to the Farmer's Daughters Market Hotel, right by CBS Studios in Hollywood. So I hung out there. I had saved a bunch of money because I worked a lot as a kid, and I knew how to save money then. I don't know how to save money now, but I knew how to do it then. Anyway, so I get there, and I'm going through the yellow pages, and anything I could find stunt-wise, Stuntmen's Association, Stunts Unlimited, you know, and I went to Universal Studios, and I got a job there greeting the tram dressed as a baby werewolf, you know, because I would get in there and it would cost me money, and then I'd go to the stunt show and I'd talk to the guys, hey, how do I get into stunts? How do I get in? How can I work on this show and stuff like that? And they're like, go away, kid, you're too young. Do you know anybody? And like, no, well, go train at a dojo or go to a gymnastics gym and you'll meet other stunt people and stuff like that. Told me the same thing we tell everybody these days. And and I went to Stuntmen's Association and asked questions and Stunts Unlimited. And of course, I was 16 and everybody was go away, kid. So I got the job there greeting the trams. And then as soon as my shift was over, I'd run into this because now I could get in for free. Right? Plus, I was making $5 an hour or some crazy shit. And so I'd go talk to the guys more. And finally, I joined a martial arts school. And I ended up running out of money. And I saw the people living on the street in LA, and I didn't want to be one of those people. But I knew that was coming, and I couldn't find a job because I wasn't old enough to work there in the city. They had rules and laws, not like what I grew up with. And so I booked out of there. Ended up coming back to Canada. And so I trained in a martial arts school in Saskatchewan because I was working in the oil industry there, and they linked up with a martial arts school in Los Angeles. So I ended up going back. And my sensei, our headmaster, Fumio Demura there, was the stunt double for Pat Morita in the Karate Kid movies. He was a stuntman. So I'm like, wow, serendipitous, holy crap, full circle, here I am back again, and now I've got a connection, right? And so he tried to help me, you know, but there's 5,000 stunt guys there, and I had no experience, and I didn't know anybody else other than him. So he said, you know what, they're starting to make a lot of movies in Canada. He says, you can work there, right? And I go, yeah, I have dual citizenship. He says, you should go back to Vancouver, or you should go to Vancouver. He says, because there's a lot of movies go up there, and they bring their own stunt guys, but they look for other guys there, but there's not that many. So in 1989, I got in my truck, and I drove here, and I lived in my truck for 2 months, you know, until I found an apartment, which actually I linked up with another black belt from the organization. He let me stay in his basement, and, you know, things started to work out, and I started doing extra work. So once I got doing extra work, my key was to meet the stunt coordinator and give my resume and start doing special skills and work my way up. So my first stunt ever was on MacGyver, the TV series with...
Oh, I love that you're That's amazing.
So I was an SAE, and Vince Dedrick Jr. was the stunt coordinator. And I'd been hounding him for a stunt job, but anyway, I finally got SAE with him. And Melissa Stubbs and Ken Kersinger were doing a fight scene in this bar in some far-off country or whatever, right? And she smacks Ken with a frying pan. You know, Ken Kersinger is 6'6", a big boy, and he's sort of flying to this crowd of observers, right? So me and another guy by the name of Paris Milios, we were the SAE guys, and the rest were extras, and they had to get out of the way, and we were supposed to get bumped. But don't fall down, because that's a stunt, right? Well, the director didn't like it, and he said to tell Vince, go over and tell those boys to hit the ground. So he goes, hey, you guys hit the ground this time, I'll bump you up to stunt. I'm like, okay. Well, I tell you, I was probably at that wall over there. And I flew from that wall to this wall and hit the wall and fell down, you know. I was like I was on a ratchet. And Vince came up and he leaned over and he goes, I think that'll do. And we ended up getting another day out of the deal. And came back, so I got 2 days. And I was so strapped for money, and I had kids at that time already, and there was going to be no Christmas. And I got my paycheck, and I'm like, what the? And I called accounting right away, and I said, I think you made a mistake on my paycheck. And they go, what? We didn't give you your overtime or your adjustment? And I go, no, I think you paid me too much. And it was the time of calculators, right? So I could hear click, 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 click. She goes, no, I think that's right. Thanks. And I ran to the bank, cashed it right away. It's like, woohoo, we got Christmas, kids. Yeah, so it was quite a change. And
I fucking love that story, man.
And that was my first stunt. But on my second stunt, things went completely sideways. So oddly enough, my sensei was good friends with Chuck Norris.
Okay.
He actually trained him how to use his hands. So when Chuck came back from the war in Korea, he knew Tang Soo Do. So he was really good with his feet, but he didn't know how to use his hands. So he trained with my sensei, and they became good friends. So long story short, my sensei has a tournament every year, and he wanted a letter from Chuck, because Chuck usually came to the tournament and greeted people and was a special guest. But he was shooting a movie here called The Hitman. So Sensei was going to get him to do a letter to put in his program, sign Chuck Norris and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So can you take this to him? Because it was that time where you needed the actual signature and blah, blah, blah. So that got me on the set, you know. And Chuck welcomed me and said hi and everything like that. And he's like, so what are you doing here? Because he knew I was one of Sensei's students, but Sensei's in California.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no, I live here. I'm here trying to get into the stunt business. But Sensei mailed me this letter, wanted me to get it signed to, and I'll mail it back to him. And he's like, wow, okay. And he says, well, why didn't you tell me you were here to do stunts? I'd have put you in the movies. Well, hang around, have lunch. We'll see if we can find something for you to do. So here's where things went sideways. Let's see if we can find something for you to do.
Okay.
That's always a bad sign.
Yeah, okay.
So this stunt was never initially in the movie.
Yeah.
And they sent the stunt coordinator home. They
Yeah.
sent the armor home, and then they thought up this thing. And so Bruno Drusi was being tortured in the movie, and they find him almost dead.
Yeah.
So him and Al Waxman, Chuck Norris and Al Waxman, was to come up and put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
Shoot him. And that was it. That was what the scene was. Well, let's have this kid double. Bruno Drusi was the guy.
Yeah.
Let's have him double him, and when he gets shot, he'll do the funky chicken and fall off the table. There's a
Yeah.
stunt for you, right? It's a little more dramatic or
Yeah.
whatever. So, okay, so they make me up like Bruno Drusi all of a sudden and put me in the scene, and they go to shoot me, and the director decides he wants more flash coming out of the gun. And so the armor had been sent home, and the stunt coordinator had been sent home, and he also wanted it pointed right at me, originally at my head.
Wow.
And everybody argued, said, no, it's too close, he'll get flash burns on his face,
Yeah.
and this is no good, because they were standing like this, less than 3 feet away. So they went back, and they're like, what makes the flash? Gunpowder. Well, let's pour more gunpowder down the barrel. It was already on top of a full load blank. And it was a 9mm, so it's got a plug in it. It's called a restrictor. It's screwed in the barrel. So if your barrel's this big, it makes it down to that big, which causes back pressure to kick out the empty cartridge, because there's no bullet in it, right,
Okay.
per se. So they went and filled the gun full of gunpowder, and they give it to the actor, and he's pointing at me, but at my chest. So he fires, huge flash, exactly what the director wanted to see, tons of flame coming out of it, but it just felt like somebody hit me with a hot sledgehammer in the side, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. I got the wind knocked out of me, and I was like sucking wind, and I was new, so everybody thought, oh, this new guy, he's a pansy.
Yeah.
He got hit with a little wadding or something, and he's making a big deal out of it,
Yeah.
and I couldn't breathe, right? And they looked, and they couldn't see anything, right? And I had blood and guts all over me from the scene, so, you know, they wiped it away, and they're like, where's it hurt? And I'm going, right here, and they couldn't see anything. So it made a little U-shaped cut about the size of a pea, and it wasn't even bleeding, right?
Yeah.
It kind of went in, and the flap closed, and that was it. And so I didn't know what had happened, and the nurse or the craft service lady was trying to give me oxygen. I was pushing away, and she's putting ice on my side. And then I started to throw up blood. So they knew something was pretty serious. So they called an ambulance. Took 45 minutes. Got there, rushed me to Surrey Memorial, and they cut me open from here to here. They did an X-ray, and they saw something in my liver. So there's a restrictor blew out, went through my stomach, intestine, and across and stuck in my liver. And I was so lucky because it nicked a rib, and it took the cartilage off this rib and kept on going. Had it hit bone, the doctor said, it probably would have ricocheted up into your heart or your lung. So I got lucky. It kept on traveling down through my stomach, if you want to call that luck. and it stopped right between two veins that you have in your, two main arteries you have in your liver. If it had severed one of those, I would have bled to death, right? I mean, I was bleeding pretty badly already, and your liver's mush, so they were able to get it out of there, and your liver just fixes itself, sort of thing. But I had 3 operations because your intestine does this, right? So I had bullet holes, essentially, through all that. So they missed stitching some of that up. And when they pulled the tubes out of me, all of a sudden I felt like somebody was stabbing me with a knife. They did an ultrasound. Oh, you're leaking bile into yourself. So pull out all the staples, go back in, fix the holes, take out my appendix because it was bad now, you know. And yeah, so that took 4 months to recover from. And then I started calling out, hey, I'm ready for work, I'm ready for work, I'm ready for work, right? And the guys are going like, you still want to do this?
You crazy son of a bitch.
And I'm like, what else am I going to do? Work at McDonald's, you know?
like-
This is what I'm made for.
Oh my God, so that explains a lot. So that being your intro to the industry, is that why you have this very fucking calm demeanor no matter what you're doing? Like I was watching you do it was like a segment on In Search of Justice. It was a Steven Seagal show. back
Oh
in the
my
day.
God, yeah.
And then you were doing a 60-foot fall off the top of a building?
Backwards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a narrow alley. It's 60 feet up. And it just looks like you're waiting in line at Starbucks to get a coffee. Like you're on the edge of a 60, and you're just like, yeah. So what you want to do is kind of, and I'm like, I'm freaking out watching you, but it explains a lot considering what your introduction to the industry was. Like,
nothing's gonna get worse than that.
Than that. Holy shit! So how long were you out before you could make that call and we're like, okay?
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, I was 2 weeks in the hospital with 3 operations and then 4 months of recovery.
Was there a part of you that felt like that was like a badge in the, like, not because maybe you were in it long enough, but did you feel that because you were willing to come back that was like you wanted it so bad that to see somebody be off for 4 months and then still want to come back and do that, did you think that you'd be to your benefit in some way?
Not to the extent that it was a huge benefit to me. I got known immediately.
Yeah, like
I was the guy that got shot.
And came back.
Yeah,
like
and guys would bring me on set, coordinators would bring me on set and give me jobs, and I would perform properly and good, but they would go, hey, lift your shirt, show the camera guys. Yeah. You guys do not stand in front of these blank guns because this is what can happen to you. And so I was the poster child for safety, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And so it was a huge benefit and got me known throughout the community immediately.
Right?
I would not recommend that as a way to get started, but it sure worked for me. And everybody always told me, hey, you always have one bad one in your career. You got yours over with right off the bat.
Second day.
Yeah.
Got me. So was that the progression of how you ended up working on what's this show with Chuck Norris, the
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Walker, Texas Ranger.
There is a crazy long history story of me and the Norrises. So after that accident happened, they felt really bad, and you're in the family, and and of course nobody wants a lawsuit or any of that kind of stuff. So I got talked to by so many people about lawsuits and this and that and everything, and they said, you know what, you gotta put a lawsuit in place. It's just towards the insurance company. I mean, they have insurance for this. You almost died. You deserve something, you know. And I kept getting this from everybody, so I did. I got a lawyer, but I had no money at all. I was flat busted and trying to raise a family. Anyway, so the lawyer was going to work on a contingency. We'll get X amount off of whatever you get out of this lawsuit. Deal. Okay. So he's working away. Meanwhile, they call me, and they were good for their word, a year later to go work on a show in LA called Sidekicks. Okay. Right? So I jump in my car, I drive to LA. I'm already a SAG member. I stay on a buddy's couch, and I go to work. Now, there when you work in LA, I didn't have a company or anything, so they take taxes off your check and everything like that, and I'm 50%. So anyway, by the time my job was done, I made like $1,500, right? And then they invited me to the wrap party and everything. But during working with them, they were so nice to me, and I said, look, I got to be honest with you guys. Just so you know, I've got a lawsuit in place. None of you guys are named in it. It's just towards the insurance company to cover my bills because I was out for 4 months. Oh, yeah, you deserve that. You deserve a house. You deserve a new car. Oh, my God, you almost died, and blah, blah, blah. And so they were all for it the first day. Second day, they came back and said, hey, come here. Maybe you want to drop this thing because we're working with the same producer, and his insurance rates are going to go up. And you're in the family now. You're going to work on every Chuck Norris movie we make from here on out, So you're going to make tons of money, more than you ever would in a lawsuit. So, forget about it. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? Because I'd like to play ball with these guys, but I'm going to owe this guy a shit ton of money that I don't have. So how do I stop this train that's in motion, So we go to the wrap party, and Aaron Norris takes me for a walk on the beach, and he says, hey, so we got this show in Thailand. You'll be there for 8 months. You'll make more money than you ever dreamed of, and so you should drop this thing. And I said, well, can I have a contract or some money up front or something so I can pay this guy and make him go away? And he's like, oh, we're good for our word. We got you down here, didn't we? And something in me just snapped, like, got me down here? Like, are you trying to tell me you did me a favor? Almost killed me. I drove her in my car. I'm sleeping on a buddy's couch. I made $1,500 after all said and done. And we're good for our word. I'm like, come on. And so we had a big argument, and we separated. It was kind of a big, fuck you, I'll never see you again sort of thing. Well, years pass, and I end up remarrying, and I'm married to an actress, and we're living in Los Angeles. She comes home one day, and she goes, you're never going to guess who called me today. And I go, who? She goes, Walker, Texas Ranger. CBS called me and wants me to be a new ranger on the show. I'm like, oh my God. I said, yeah, you know what, she knew my story and everything. So I said, yeah, I would be careful, tread lightly. And And she goes, yeah, I knew you'd say that, but, you know. Anyway, she went and met with him. She had an action reel because I had trained her in martial arts and choreographed a bunch of fights for her. And so she was good, and she was very physical and could do it. And so they really wanted her. And she said, well, you know, my husband's a stuntman, and she mentioned my name. No lights went on. They didn't recognize the name. Yeah. And there is no other name like that in this business. So I went, oh, that's really bizarre, you know. So I called Aaron and I said, hey, you know, if we decide to take this, I just want to make sure nothing weird, you know. Oh, no, come on down for a coffee and stuff like that. And I didn't so much as say, I'm the guy that you shot, but I said, I worked with you on Hitman, I worked with you on Sidekicks, and I'm only a guy from Canada that did that, you know, so still didn't click. Anyway, long story short, we took the job, went to Texas. She was one of the lead actors on the show, and I became part of the stunt team. Well, worked on it for 2 years. And I became the fight director. They would give me the cameras, I'd shoot the fights, and then hand it back over to the director, you know. So I was entrenched. I was part of the team, the family, so to speak. Well, one day I had my shirt off and my shorts on, and we were working in a water tank. And I was doing water safety for this actress that was getting handcuffed to a boat at the bottom or something like that. And Mike Norris was directing Chuck's one of his sons. And he goes, Lash, what happened to you? What was that surgery? And I go, oh, I got shot on one of your dad's movies. And his jaw drops to the floor, and he goes, that was you? He goes, Uncle Aaron told us that stunt guy was dead. So he just went and told that Canadian stunt guy, he died, you know. And I go, nope, still like here.
Lazarus, I arose.
So he was so in shock, he stopped the set, he runs to Dad's trailer, he runs to Chuck's trailer, and he goes, Dad, Lauro, bang, Canada, oh my God. And he's got it. And Chuck's like, hey, Mike, he's been here for 2 years. Zip it. What's the deal? I mean, he's part of the family. Who cares? That's the ancient history, you know, sort of thing. So he came back to the set, scratching his head, and said, okay, let's roll camera. You know? So anyway, I did 2 years with him, and I'm still friends with Aaron to this day. I worked for him a little while ago on Hawaii Five-0. He runs that show, or did. I think it's over now, but it's a crazy business, crazy history.
It's funny. There's it's like that whole idea about people saying people are lucky. And I was like, well, it's preparation and luck, right? Like that's the intersection that those opportunities come, right? Like, and so what was the progression from fight coordinator? Were you eyeing the director's seat at that point? Was there a part of you that wanted to be able to take the reins and maybe tell the stories that way?
No, the way it transitioned, my dream was only ever to be a stuntman and to do the gnarliest stunts I could get my hands on, you know, sort of thing. And I never even dreamt of trying to be the best stuntman ever, because what is that? And how do you quantify that? You know, I just wanted to do a good job, be respected, and be a stuntman. That was it, you know, and be in the action because I loved it, you know. And I found that as I progressed as a stunt performer and got a lot of experience and got to do some, you know, a lot of air ramp stuff, a lot of high fall stuff, you know, a lot of horse stuff, whatever I got my hands on, I realized I became valuable in a sense to the stunt coordinator that was hiring me, in the sense that, you know, sometimes you work as a team and it's like you throw your ideas in there, and I, you know, go whispering, what if we did this and we did that, you know, hey, good idea, you know, and it would work better for the scene or the action. And then I started to go, I could coordinate, you know, and then I started doing it a bit myself, and I got a lot of help from Tony Morelli. He was a great mentor for me, and you know, also a martial artist, and so he kind of helped open those doors. And so I got doing that, and then kind of same thing happened with the directors, like, hey, if you put the camera down here and we came right at it, you know, and just missed it, you're going to get a real dynamic shot. And he's like, oh, you should direct second unit for me, you know, because we got a couple of days coming up, and next thing you know, I got a gig directing second unit. And so it just kind of transitioned. It just kind of happened. I wasn't chasing it or pushing it. It just kind of was a natural progression. And then I found that I really enjoyed it, especially when I got hired on ahead of time to be the second unit director and got to prep it and plan it and be a real part of sharing ideas with the directors and the producers and telling the story, and then realize that's what it's all about, connecting the action with the story, and it transcends and tells the story. It's not action for the sake of action and then back to the story, you know. So it's got to flow together, and that was the big thing that really clicked with me and made me really passionate about that. And the whole directing thing, coming to main unit as a director, was an accident. I had done second unit on a Steven Seagal movie
Yeah.
with a director by the name of Keone Waxman.
Yeah.
And some things happened on the show, and always difficult things happened with Steven, and we got behind.
Yeah.
So they kept pushing more stuff to second unit.
Yeah.
And which is very rare that actors come to second unit and you do dialogue on second unit.
Yeah.
But Keone trusted me, and he started shoving some of that my way. Now, it becomes really tricky because you don't know necessarily what they're shooting on main unit and what you're shooting on second unit. It's got to jive in the editing room.
Yeah.
So it all worked. It all jived. The movie turned out as good as a Steven Seagal movie can. And they asked me to come back and do the next one as the second unit director.
Yeah.
And so we were supposed to go to Detroit to shoot it. We're on a conference call, and we're talking about it. And then the producer goes, "Oh, by the way, we're going to shoot this in Romania now." I'm like, "My bags are packed. I don't care where I go. It sounds fun. Never been there. Right? Let's go." Well, Keone calls me back after the conference call, and he says, "Hey, Lash, I can't do this movie. I've got some family stuff going on, and I can't be that far away from home for that long." I said, "Oh, I guess we're not doing this movie then." And he goes, "Yeah, you are." And I go, "What?" He goes, "You directed a third of the last movie. It all cut together perfectly. You dealt with the actors. Steven loves you. The producers love you. Go direct this movie." And so he pitched me to them, and next thing I'm on a plane to Romania to do my first movie.
Main unit director.
Yeah.
Holy
18,
shit.
18 days, and on your mark, set, go. It was, working with a Romanian crew that didn't speak a lot of English.
Oh my
and,
God! So you were thrown.
I was thrown in the deep end.
Wow.
So we got it done, and it turned out good. And then they asked me to. They were doing a series after that, so then they asked me to come on as the coordinator, second unit director, and to direct some of the episodes. So that's where I really got my full rounded. And then Keone started having me write the action, so I was writing into the script and stuff like that. So
Wow.
it's like a lot of the guys are doing now with the CW shows.
Yeah.
You become a part of the family.
Yeah.
You know the story. You know the people.
Yeah.
You know the characters. They trust you, and you can grow with them. And
Yeah.
once you become part of the family, and that's what I was there for a few years, and you grow out of certain things, and you have to move on, and that's that's kind of what I did, and now I dream and create my own things, and want to go off and shoot certain stories, and that's kind of, but stunts is still my first love, and I'll keep performing until I feel I can't, or somebody tells me I can't, and then then I'll stick to the writing, directing, or whatever. But it's just a balance, and you just you just love what you do. You just keep doing it.
So, what are some of the, considering last year you were honored with the 25-year Canada? I love that you're wearing it.
Yeah.
So
pretty proud of that.
Yeah. So these are only given to members that have been and part of the Stunts Canada for 25 years and been given to the film industry here.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. That speaks to your CV. It speaks to your work over the years. What type of advice would you give to current performers that perhaps maybe want to get that 25-year? Besides you making it that long, 25 years, what are some crucial characteristics a stunt performer needs to have in order to sustain that 25 years of quality? Everybody's
different. But when anybody asks me what makes a good stunt performer, I narrow it down to two things. I'm a very basic guy, and I just look at what's right and wrong. Yeah. And the two things that I think are most right about a stunt performer is you got to be tough as nails, because you got to get up and do it again and again and again, right? So if you come from a background and you can, ignore pain and keep going, that's going to help you a lot. Yeah. And learning things and new skills quickly on the fly. So if you're a natural athlete or came up through some sort of athletics or professional sports background, martial arts, boxing, could be anything. Yeah. Could be gymnastics. Those are all popular. Judo, martial arts are always good because you're getting thrown around. You're getting beat up anyway. Yeah. Rodeo. I mean, frick, that's where it all started. Cowboys. Cowboys are what brought... That's ground zero, right? That's ground zero when stunts started. Is like the guys falling off horses back in the black and white movies, you know what I mean? Tough as nails. Yeah. So those two things, being tough and learning shit quick, that's what makes a good stunt person, in my opinion. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it, of course, and you know, having the focus and the determination. It's so often again and on again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when am I ever going to work again? Oh my God, we all go through that, right?
Yeah.
And it never goes away,
No.
right? You can be in it for 30 years.
It still doesn't go away.
It still doesn't go
so
away.
that's just part of the...
I don't stress about it.
Yeah.
You know, I might sit for a month and not work.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often,
Yeah.
fortunately, but it can happen, and you just got to go, well, that just means something bigger, better's coming along.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, you get that sweet job, and you're rolling for another 6 months or something, you know, and or you might get a bunch of day calls that stack up, you know. It's just the nature of the business, and you got to learn to live with it. That's.
Do you think we're losing a bit of the second one you mentioned, the toughness? Do you think that's not losing it, but has it shifted?
It has.
Because when you were mentioning, like, when you were coming up, like, that was a time when you prided yourself on the taking the fall. Like, you were the badge you'd wear was based on how fucking tough you were coming off a stunt, like taking the fall. But with all the calls for safety we currently have, and which are for the better, do you feel like the stunt community is losing a bit of that toughness, where you need to be able to repeatedly hit the ground and like performers now?
Yes and no. Mainly because we have so many more people.
Okay.
And some of the people that are coming in are very, very talented.
Yeah.
But they don't come from a toughness background like rodeo or martial arts or something, right? So they're not accustomed to that. They'll learn it as they go along and decide, that's too much for me, you know, whatever. And then there's still some people that come from a background where, I can take it, you know what I mean? But it's so different now. There's so many different pads.
Yeah.
And so much stuff that you can put on, and it's so low profile, and you can hide it so easy, and you know.
Oh my God, I guess I never even thought about that.
And also now we can get the art department to paint a pad to look like the floor, and so the floor can be padded or the wall can be padded, and that's all stuff that really didn't happen back when I got started, and especially even before me.
Yeah.
So it's like you kept it to a minimum.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because you're trying to be a tough guy, but you know, when you got a big old hockey elbow sticking out, it shows up, right? So, you know, so I wouldn't put both of them on because that one's facing camera, and really I'm going to fall on this side, so I only need one elbow pad, right?
Oh my God.
So you always thought about the minimum that you needed. Or I came up as a martial artist through karate, judo, aikido, so I knew how to fall, I knew how to roll. So it's like, in the dojo, you got thrown around on a wood floor. Yeah. So now we're on a wood floor in a set. Why do I need a pad? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just kind of go with it because that's what you grew up as. It's like those kids you were telling me, and you know, they're doing stuff on hard dirt out in the middle of nowhere with no pads. Yeah. It's just like,
Yeah, they would have like this tethered old like 1978 volleyball knee pads. Tethered though. Yeah. Just like tie it up because it doesn't even stick together. And then they would do some crazy flip and then splits on the ground, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And that's the era that you know, that's
and it just depends on the background that you come from, and you know, the other thing that I wanted to mention is performance is so key. We get so many people coming into the business that are really good martial artists, gymnasts, or you know, some sort of physical activity they come from, but they don't catch on quick enough to the performance. Yeah. Like when you get shot, you got to show some pain in your face because and that's where paying attention to camera. They might have 3 cameras, and one's wide and may not really see your face, but they might have one right here because you're the bad guy, so you better, you know, show something. But if you just you know, and fall down, your coordinator's gonna go, oh man, you know, he fell down fine, but you know, the director didn't like his performance, and so, you know, you either try and talk to that guy and get him to work on it, or he doesn't come and work for you that much anymore. You know what I mean? Or, unless it's the guy in the background falling down, you know. So performance is key as well, you know, as far as selling the pain, and working with this guy. Yeah. That's all you ever heard on set.
So for anyone that's wondering why we got 2 copies of this book right here, or one version, I think Never Grow Up and My Life is Action, this book is actually signed for Lauro. And can you please tell us the Jackie Chan story? Because I was shitting myself. Because this is like a demigod of the stunt world, stunt action. Like, he was the one that kind of like paved the way for our current cinema, I feel. Yeah. Like, you watch John Wick, you watch these movies, and he's the one that kind of... He's the original gangster of like the actor and stunt performer. And so you got an opportunity to work with him on... which movie?
Rumble in the Bronx was the first one.
That's the first one.
Yeah, and then Shanghai Noon after that.
And so were you working with him as a performer or coordinator?
Performer only.
Performer
only. Yeah. So as a kid, I loved watching martial arts movies, and Chuck Norris was one of my favorites. But Jackie was the end-all, be-all, you know. And The Big Brawl, or the Battle Creek Brawl, as they called it, was the first movie I ever saw with him in it. And I was just blown away. And I just loved the combination of comedy and martial arts that he used and stuff. And the acrobatics are just phenomenal, right? So I was a huge Jackie Chan fan. And when he came to town to do Rumble in the Bronx, a lot of the stunties didn't know, who's this Chinese guy, you know? So yeah, like, and I was like, what? And I was gonna do whatever I had to do to work on that movie, right? I was like, I gotta work with Jackie Chan, whether it's 1 day or 2 days, I don't care, I gotta work. So Mark Eichenstream was the stunt coordinator, really good friend of mine. We were like brothers, right? And so I went in, and he sadly came to me a couple days later and said, you look too young. They don't feel you could be a part of the Tony's gang, you know, a gang member sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, shit, you know. And so I ended up working for Scott T on some other show, and I grew a goatee. And Mark came over one day, and I said, hey, Mark, take a Polaroid of me, because that's when Polaroids were the thing, right? And so I got him to take a Polaroid of me, and I said, take this back and see if you can get me in for casting again, because I look different with the goatee. He goes, yeah, you do. Let me try. So sure enough, I got another audition.
Fuck yeah.
And I went in, and they liked my look. And next thing you know, I'm going in a second round, and I walk in the room, and there's Jackie Chan. And I got to audition with him, and then do a few fight moves with him. And I wasn't prepared for this. I was like, oh, shit, right? I'm shitting bricks. So I come out of there, and I'm like, and then they hand me these papers, and it's not a script. It's just a story outline. And they said, read this. This is what the story is and stuff like that. And then we'll be contacting you for costumes and blah, blah, blah. So I went away, and I go, I guess I got a job. So then when I came back, I got a contract for 10 days. I was like, yes! Oh my God, 10 days working with Jackie Chan, best thing in my life, right? 55 days later, I was finally off the show.
55 days.
It just kept going and going and going. Jackie would call Hong Kong, send more money. And we just keep going.
Fuck yeah!
It was just crazy. And there was no script, never a script. Nobody ever saw a script. They just made it up as they went along. They had the story written out in about 10 pages, and then they just made it up every day as they went along. And then the dialogue was just made up most part on the day. I was supposed to be the Mexican guy of the gang. Like, there was Italians, there was Mexicans, there was white supremacists, there was black guys, there was Chinese. Jackie doesn't like to make any one race the bad guys, right? So he wanted,
that's smart.
He wanted everything. So I'm the Mexican guy, and I go, yo, ¿qué pasa, man? What you doing? You know, so that's how I approached Jackie in the store. And next thing you know, he's kicking the shit out of me, and they got me on a wire, pulling me through shelving units.
What scene was that? Was that in
it's
the
in
grocery
the convenience store? Yeah.
I remember you.
Yeah. I had a bandana, and he just beats the shit out of me, and then poof, kicks me through the display case. Right?
Man. That is so incredible.
Yeah.
And that's where the famous incident of him doing the jump, a transfer onto the C bus.
I came this close to being, oh no, that C-Bus one was where he broke his ankle. But the bigger jump was across from the Woodward's parking garage into a small doorway on a balcony across the alley. And frickin' hilarious scene. But I came this close to doubling Jackie for that one. So one day, him and Stanley Tong, who was the director, came up to me and go, come and rehearse with us, right? So we go over to another part, and they have a box rig down there, and the jump is the same distance. I can see the alley over there, and we're jumping. There's a part of the parkade where it drives through, so we could actually make the jump into a box rig and not have to worry about falling. So anyway, they wanted to see if I could make it in that doorway from here, and and they drew it out on the boxes and stuff like that. So I did it. Stanley did it, because he's a stunt guy before he was a director. He was in Jackie's team, and Jackie did it. So we all could fit in that doorway, could all make the jump. No problem. And so I'm just young. I'm like 24, 5, right? 25. And I'm like, I'm going to get the double tacky down. I was just like, I was losing my shit, right? And Stanley, they never told who was going to do it until the day. And Stanley got out of the director's chair. Yeah, I guess I'll do this one. And he starts, goes running, and he just jumps across the thing. And Jackie was in the other side, and when Stanley landed and rolled in, Jackie came out and went, like it was him. But that's the only stunt he didn't do on the movie. Jackie did everything else, even with a broken ankle. Like you were talking about, he jumped onto the hovercraft. You see his ankle snap. And he got casted, and then he had them make a sock and color it like a shoe, and he ran around on that cast the rest of the movie.
See, that's what I mean. Like, very few people are built like that.
No.
Like that's not for everyone.
Jackie's broken everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it was not Police Story. I can't remember what the movie was where he was doing a transfer from a tree onto a wall.
Oh, and he smashed his head, and he's got a hole. He made me feel his head one time.
Yeah.
No, feel. I'm like, oh
God, I know you have a hole in your head.
yeah.
And so, like, you having an opportunity to be around like the greats of this industry in a time when that's kind of what influenced action cinema. It was like late 80s, early to mid 90s. Like that's when like action really, and I guess that's when Jackie Chan started making a name for himself, was mid 90s on.
Yeah.
So what was the progression from you from working on Walker, Texas Ranger, from you doing your first feature project, working with Jackie Chan, what was the early 2000s in your career? Where were you now, considering that you were probably about almost 10 years in the industry by that point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the early 2000s for you?
That was a huge transition for me in doing Walker, Texas Ranger and becoming a director of sorts. I mean, I was called the fight director.
Yeah.
It was kind of a second unit thing, but not going way in second unit. I was doing it on main unit. So that was a huge learning curve and thing for me. But I had previously done work with Jackie, and I learned so much from him as far as fights and shooting fights and stuff like that. Because Jackie almost never does a master, right?
Yeah.
And I found on Walker, when I watched it before, is like you would get, the editors would use chunks of the master that were just crap. Because they wanted to pull back wide and stuff, and I'm just like, I can't give them that. I don't want them to use that crap. So I would not intentionally shoot a master. I would do it in pieces like Jackie taught us, sort of thing. And they embraced it, and we moved on that way. And the other thing is, this is kind of a funny story from Walker, and you may use it, you may not. But so they would hire guys that weren't stunt guys, and I would know a lot of the guys from LA would fly out to Texas, or some of the Texas guys that were coming on set, but then all of a sudden there'd be like a new guy I'd never heard of, and none of the other stunt guys knew him. I'm like, who is this guy? Well, he's a writer. I'm like, what? Why is he here? Oh, he's a lawyer. What? Why is he
What's
here?
happening?
Yeah. So they would tell these guys, oh, we'll put you out there, and you can, take a punch from Chuck, and and fall down, and you'll make $1,500 and whatever, but it'll be fun, and you'll be. So they were offering these guys little trips to the set, sort of thing, and I didn't want them there because they made my fights look like shit because they couldn't react, and the time, and Chuck would get frustrated, and so I'd go to my other doubles and I'd match them up in a fight with them, like J.J. Perry. Do you know J.J.?
J.J. Perry.
Yeah. Look him up. The guy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he was in the U.S. Olympic Taekwondo team, and he can kick like lightning and so hard. Yeah. Anyway, great martial artist, and he's now moved on to be a great director. But anyway, he was doubling Judson Mills on the show, so he was his double. And I'd put these guys with JJ, and I said, kick them as hard as you can. And they'd come up and go, oh, do you have a chest pad or anything? I said, no, sorry, you guys should have brought your own pads, And JJ would lace into them, and, most of them never came back. But this one guy kept coming back. I couldn't believe it. So this one time I have him run into the room, and there's a nice glass coffee table there, and there's a chair here like this. So I said, JJ, I want you to run in, jump over the chair, get him with both feet, wham, and land in the chair and look so cool, and then we'll put Judson there, ha ha ha, sort of thing. And man, he smoked that guy, and he went through that grass, and I thought, he's not coming back, never come back. A couple episodes later, he shows up again. I'm like, what's with this guy? But now he's smartened up. He's got some pads and stuff like that.
Cool.
And I'm just like, And he just wasn't coordinated, and again, stuff looked shitty, so I was just like, okay, JJ, he's going to be running. You're going to run up this tree, because this tree grew out like this. And so you're going to run up, and you're going to just bulldog him into the ground. You're going to bury him 6 feet into the ground, right? So he munched this guy, and the guy rolls out of it and gets up, and I go, oh, now we got to do a bit of a fight, right? So I said, okay, you're going to do a spin kick, and he was right on the edge of this lake, and you're going to kick him as hard as you can, send him out as far as you can into the water, sort of thing, right? And it was a pond there in Texas. So he lines up, and he kicks this guy, and I could have swore he was on a ratchet. He flies out about 15 feet into the water. No sooner did he break the surface, and the whole crew went, oh! all this duck shit from the bottom started to come up, and it was just reeked because it was just a still pond, right?
Yeah.
And he comes out looking like the creature from the Black Lagoon, you know, just sledge and shit all over.
Thing.
Oh, yeah. And stink. Oh, my God. The crew literally walked away from the cameras, backed away as he came out, and we got a Teamster to back a truck down there, put him in the back of the truck, took him up to the ranch house and sprayed him down with a fire hose sort of thing. And I went, he's never coming back now, you know. So anyway, the show ends, and I end up going over to Vic Quintero's house, and he's like, hey, I want you to meet a buddy of mine. You know him, and this guy walks around the corner, and I go, hey, what's happening? Oh, Vic goes, we're writing a script together. We're going to put this movie together. Oh, you're a writer? He goes, yeah. He says, I was a writer on Walker, and that's how I make my living. And I said, well, how come you kept showing up doing stunts? He says, well, sometimes they didn't have enough money to pay me the WGA minimum for the script, so they'd say, don't worry, we'll give you this much, and then you'll have a real easy stunt to do on set, and you'll make the extra money up that way. It'll be like extra work, nothing to it, right? And then they sent him to me, and then I just beat the living shit out of him.
Olympic professional taekwondo martial artist.
I felt so bad. I didn't know that was the situation, so I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I took his hand. I was so mean to you. I'm so sorry.
Dragging a check to home, honey. We can eat tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. But that's, well, props to him for having the heart.
Yeah.
And that must be a hard fucking night of writing. And sitting there like, oh, my ribs.
Yeah. Can't lift my left arm or my right arm, my writing arm anymore. Yeah.
Wow, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So.
But all that transition in the early 2000s, I mean, the big thing that really changed for me is getting onto The Last Samurai. Because after Walker, then I went on to do The Last Samurai and was the fight coordinator for that, and worked under Nick Powell and with Melissa Stubbs, and we had a huge team, 80 plus stunt people. Most of them we brought from Japan, but we probably brought about 10 guys from here. And yeah, it was just intense. I was on that show for 11 months. We prepped for 3 months, shot for 3 months in LA, and then went to New Zealand for 5 months.
It shows though, because that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, even one of the one take of Tom Cruise in the middle, and he's about to fight the other.
The Ronin fight.
The Ronin
yeah.
fight. Dude, still hands down one of the best like samurai sword fighting scenes I've ever seen.
And I got to hand it to Tom. He did the whole thing. He would not even let an insert of his boot be his double on that one.
No,
he came out of his room at 3 a.m. to do an insert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He worked hard. He trained hard, and it was amazing. He trained with us. He started and prepped all through the shoot. He would stay after wrap, and we'd go through what we were gonna do the next day, run through it, and we'd be out in the middle of a battlefield, and the sun's going down. It's getting dark, and let's run it again. Let's run it again. Yeah. I want to know for tomorrow that I got this tight, you know, and then he'd get in his helicopter and fly away.
Golden helicopter off to the distance. Well, it's interesting, like, because a lot of the shows I do jump on are these very action-heavy superhero shows. So to hear a performer who takes it upon himself to go do the dirt, you know, put himself in those situations, possibly get hurt during the process, it's just not too many of those performers. There are a few exceptions I work with, but most of the time it's kind of left to the doubles and the coordinator. And so, what was your transition for right after The Last Samurai? Like what? Because now you're coming off having something like that on your CV, which I assume can get you any job you want.
It can be good and bad. So the next job that came to me was a really weird situation. That animal handler called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this job in Panama, and I need a brown guy to fight with my Jaguar." Yeah. So he had Shadow. It was the only working Jaguar in the film business. And this is Jerry Terrian. Yeah. And he said, I was living in LA. He says, you want to come up and train with my Jag? And I go, of course I do. Oh my God. Who gets to do that? Who gets that kind of opportunity?
Amazing job.
Yeah.
What is Jaguar? I need somebody to fight.
A black Jaguar. A black Jaguar, right? So I'm like, yes. So I fly back up here and I'm staying at Jerry's ranch. And I said, what's the story? He says, oh my God. And he tells me the story a little bit. I go, what? This is a true story? Yeah. And so I said, can I read the script? And he gives me the script, and I go, who's the stunt coordinator? I've never been hired by an animal guy before. He goes, I don't think they have one yet. And I went, what? So I called the office, and they said, I said, can I come in for an interview? I really am interested in this, you know. So I fly back to LA. I go into the office, and the the producer's kind of shaking his head already, and I go, excuse me, what's up? And he goes, yeah, got a good resume, but I don't think we can afford you. You just finished The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. This is a low budget movie in the middle of the jungle of Panama. You know, it's not The Last Samurai. So I don't think you're the guy for that. I said, whoa, slow down. I said, I love this script. I want the adventure of doing this. And I said, I know how to make this work for you. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, who are you going to get to double all these guys, these warriors in the, you know? Yeah. First off, who are you going to use? Oh, we're going to cast Indians out of the jungle. Yeah. And I go, they've obviously never made a movie before. Yeah. How are they going to do these stunts? Yeah. Will you tell me, Mr. Stunt Coordinator? And he goes, you're going to bring stunt guys from LA, from Canada, from where? Who's going to double these guys? Who's going to look like them? They're in a loincloth. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I said, send me a month early and I'll train them, just like I did on The Last Samurai. And that's where the benefit will come from that movie. Yeah. But I said, it's not about pay. It's, you know, I said, it's about the job. This is an amazing script, amazing, you know, it was all based on a true story. So boom, I'm on a plane to Panama. And I get there and they wake me up and they go, come on, we got to go. And we jump in this boat, which was just a hollowed out log with an outboard motor on the back. Yeah. Sitting in front of me is an 80-year-old Indian guy. Yeah. Ears down to here because he's got the corks in him, right? Yeah. And sitting behind me is this white guy. His name's Steve Saint, and he's going to end up being my stunt pilot in the movie. He's the pilot for this plane, and come to find that the guy sitting in front of me killed his father, and this is what the story is about. He speared his father to death. His mother took the kids and a bunch of other ladies and went and lived with this tribe and got them to quit killing people. Basically, because anybody that encroached into the Amazon jungle so far, they didn't trust them. They couldn't communicate with them, so they just spear them, right? So it was a major movie about forgiveness. You know, was basically what the story is about. And he was raised by the man that killed his father, and now they were. I'm like I'm in the Twilight Zone. How do you end up in this situation, right? And we're on our way out to the jungle to live with the tribe for a week and cast out of the tribe, from kids to adults and everything like that. So, long story short, the Black Jaguar never made it onto the movie. Yeah. But I did. Yeah. And I ended up in Panama for 4 months training these people and training kids, 10-year-old kids, how to do 30-foot high falls. I got that on YouTube, the training session with them and stuff like that, and then the stunt that happened subsequently. And so, yeah, that was amazing experience for me to live in another world. Yeah. It was life-changing, and I became a part of the tribe. I go back every 2 years and visit with them, and we stay in touch. They're on social media now and email and stuff like that. It's all changed, yeah. So
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's crazy what you come across in this business and stuff.
When you say yes, because I feel like generally most people are like, I didn't graduate out of high school, but I always had a feeling that school was every time I woke up. Like every time my lids were up, I'm in school. Mm-hmm. What lessons am I going to learn? And that's how I kind of navigate through life. So if something happens to me, I take it as a small slap on my hand, because if I keep whatever that action is, it's going to get worse. So I'm very sensitive to those type of things, and I believe that people find themselves in situations like that, have that essence of, I'm in school, so if I say yes to this opportunity, life's about to give me some amazing lesson. So this experience you had in Panama, being able to go in and into the jungle and teach people a skill set that they might have never even thought of, or even had the opportunity to. What are some of the life-changing experiences you took from that? What were some of the insights maybe that gave you?
Probably the biggest thing, our industry, the film industry, is looked at as being so glamorous and so opulent, and we know as inside workers it's not. You're in the rain and the mud and the cold and getting things done, and the red carpet's pretty cool, but we never see that. Very rarely. And it's tough to understand what makes people happy in this business and in this world. Yeah. But the biggest thing that I took from working in the jungles of Panama and living with the tribe was how happy, genuinely happy they are. Yeah. You know what I mean? They don't need a new car. They don't need to go to a red carpet premiere. Yeah. They don't need to be recognized, noticed. The ego is not there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ego is an inherent thing in humans anyway, but they don't live that way.
Yeah.
And when you show up there and you see how happy they are and they greet you and there's no trying to get something from you.
Yeah.
They just welcome you. It's just life.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's enjoy it together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just incredible, you know. And you know, I had to kind of cast these kids to do a 30-foot high fall.
Yeah.
And I couldn't bring a bunch of equipment there into the jungle and stuff like that, so I used boxes and mattresses and old school ways, and styrofoam cups with plywood, and you know,
Crazy,
all
man.
kinds of little tricks that I learned from some of the even older guys.
Yeah.
And so I went to the jungle and went into the tribe this one day, and they already knew me, but all of a sudden all the boys surrounded me because they had been told that what was up.
Yeah.
So they just take me off into the jungle, and I'm like, where am I going?
Yeah.
Don't worry, they got you, you know. And I don't understand them because they all
Yeah.
speak Embra or
Yeah.
Spanish, and
Yeah.
I knew a little bit of Spanish. So anyway, I end up at this river, this big tree, and the kids are all jumping out of it. It's their jumping tree,
Yeah.
right? I go, okay, I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I take my clothes off, and I kept some shorts on, but
Yeah.
anyway, I'm jumping out of this tree with them, and they're going up 20 feet.
Yeah.
You know, was the highest that they would do, and that was the older boys that were around 12.
Yeah.
And all these kids, just like monkeys, all over the tree, jumping out, splash, splash. And
Yeah.
there's crocs in the water, but they don't seem to care or anything,
Yeah.
you know. So, anyways, all good. And then, okay, time to get to the 30-foot mark. So I
Yeah.
go up about a branch about 25 feet. About 6 kids come with me, and 4 of them jumped, you know. 2 were like, nah.
Yeah, this is too much.
So then I go up to the 30-foot branch,
Yeah.
and 2 boys came with me.
Yeah.
And they both ended up jumping. And I
Oh,
went, okay,
shit.
you 2 got a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up casting them, and one became the actor that did the 30-foot high fall into a box rig.
Yeah.
And the other one was a backup stunt double for him, you know, should he chicken out on the night or whatever sort of thing. Because it was night, it was dark, and he had to have his sister, which was a doll, and jump out over a rocky crag and into a box rig, right? So
Yeah.
he had to clear the rocks and go down 30 feet, you know,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And then the cut was he lands in the jungle, kind of like Romancing the Stone,
Yeah.
and slides down through the jungle. We built a big tracking rig to chase him down, slide down this hill and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty intricate thing, especially for a 12-year-old kid, or I think he was 11 at the time, yeah. So that was also another great learning experience, you know. And he was so focused, and so you can see on the video when you watch it, he's just like, everything's going on around him, smoke and people yelling, and he's just like, yeah, I know where I'm going. And
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Did you catch a bug after that? Was that one of those experiences when you're like, holy shit, like that? Because that's so drastically different than being on a set for like Last Samurai. You know, all the amenities are watched, taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go from the absolute opposite, now that you're in Panama, you're in the jungle, you're with people that are living with dirt floor huts. And like piecing together this your career and all your experiences up until this point, what are some of the things you look forward to in this segment of your career now? Because that's an exceptional amount of knowledge, that's an exceptional amount of experience. What is the next decades for you? Like, and like one of the other things I want to talk more to is because currently it seems like you're moving into this mentorship phase. Like you have the program that you're running this weekend with In Search for Indigenous Talent. Can you please explain to us more? Because I feel like is this the next direction you're going towards? Is facilitating these programs and trying to give back like you did in Panama?
Well, you know, nobody got here on their own.
Yeah.
Everybody's been giving a helping hand.
Yeah.
And, you know, people will help you this far, and then
Yeah.
you keep climbing, you know, and working hard and doing what you can, sort of thing. And hopefully you make that person proud that you got a helping hand from.
Yeah.
And I don't go without noticing that. I've had a lot of help along the way. As much as people view you and think you did it all on your own, it's impossible.
No,
It's
yeah.
impossible. And so I've, all through my career, I've liked to get back and try and help people and younger stunt people, and, you know, and I see a huge gap in our community of no Indigenous performers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a few actors and there's the odd stunt person, but they only get hired for indigenous work,
Yeah,
you know, to
yeah.
double another Indian actor or whatever,
Yeah.
which is wrong. Why can't they do ND stuff like the rest of us, you
Yeah,
know, and sort of thing,
yeah.
and keep them going and have them have a career so that when we do need them to double that person, they're here, they're part of the team,
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
what's going on, they understand the business, you know,
Yeah.
and that it's just never been exercised, and it just feels so wrong to me that we're living, working, and earning so much money and having a career on their land,
Yeah.
and they're not a part of it. Now, why aren't they a part of it? It's right here in their backyard or front yard or, you know, but they're just not as aware of it. They're not known that the opportunity is there. And it goes into a whole nother thing of how they've been treated over the past 100 years and,
Yeah.
and what that's done to their psyche
Yeah.
and how they don't even-
Generational trauma.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't fix that,
Yeah.
but I can provide them an opportunity to step out of that.
Like it's like these are very underrepresented, and I always laugh with my wife. I'm like, indigenous aren't allowed to be anything else in movies than like the Indian cowboy. Like every time I see them, I'm like, it's not just like a native woman who just happens to be a doctor or something. They always have to be these locked in history almost, like these romanticized. Remember these people? I'm like, they're fucking still around. Like we can write them as doctors and police
everyday
officers,
they are everyday
and
people.
They're everyday people, but for some reason, cinema has kind of encapsulated them and frozen them in time.
Yeah.
So I love to hear that you're this weekend, because exactly what's happening this Saturday.
Well, I kind of dreamt up this program, and it's called iAMP, which stands for Indigenous Action Artists Mentorship Program.
Amazing.
And so through the help of Bruce Crawford, who's become my partner on this, who is married to an Indigenous woman, and he lives on the Musqueam band on the reserve there. So he has a lot of connections in that world, and I've known them for many years, and I know a lot of people in that area, in that group too. So I said, let's, you know, we've been talking for years about doing this as a big mentorship program for film, not just for stunts, but for camera, hair, makeup, acting, grips, electrics, you name it. Every job in the film industry should have Indigenous people working in it, right?
Yeah.
But that's big. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it and tried to massage and get it going, and it's just so big, and it needs the help of more than what we can do. So I got frustrated, and I just said, I don't want to keep waiting for the opportunity or the help to, but what can we do now? Stunts. We can certainly do a stunt program,
Yeah.
a mentorship program through stunts, and get that started. And so I kind of came up with a program and talked to Bruce about it, and he ran it through the Musqueam Band, who have funding for education and training, and so they've come on board to fund it, right? So that we can get good instructors, we can get a good place to do the whole training seminar, which is this weekend, 2 days. So it basically starts out. It's not as much about stunts as it's about how you get into stunts and what you do when you get there. So the whole thing starts out by teaching them, okay, you show up on time, a half hour early. If you come at your call time, you're already late, right? Yeah. So being early and being on time and paying attention and going and checking in with the AD, finding out where you set up and put your stuff and get changed, going to hair and makeup, grabbing breakfast when they tell you can, and so on and so on, and all the things that we know because we've learned over the years, and it's just second nature to us. But remember the first time you walked on a film set? Yeah. You're like standing in a bunch of trailers, oh my God, what do I do now?
Where do I go? What do I do?
And if that AD is busy with the actors or somebody else and nobody's there to tell you what to do, then you're standing there and all of a sudden, hey, who are you? Oh, you're late. You should have been in hair and makeup half an hour ago. And you're like, I didn't know. So anyway, I want them to know all these things ahead of time so that they can ask the right questions and be prepared and not be, a scared rabbit when they show up on set or at the trailer sort of thing. So that's the start of the program. Yeah. And then we get into keeping it basic with fight choreography and just learning how to take reactions and camera angles and how to sell a punch, and if the camera's over here or if it's up here or if it's over here, what you have to change and with your technique and so on and so forth. And then we're going to get into a little bit of mini tramp stuff. Somebody's throwing you through the air if you get blown up or whatever, and learning falls, break falls, and rolls and stuff like that. So I've got a good half a dozen people helping me out with the instruction, and I've got 3 women, so they can help teach the girls, and they won't feel self-conscious that they're just being taught by guys and stuff like that. Because I find that when I coordinate as well, I often will bring a female stunt coordinator on board to help me, because they go, oh yeah, sure, you can do that because you're a guy or whatever sort of thing, and or you're stronger or whatever. Well, watch her do it.
Yeah, she's gonna do it too.
Sort of thing. So I just want to empower the women to be able to know that they can
Beautiful,
physically do it as well, and there's a need for it, So we're going to go through the program both days, and at the end of it, we're going to evaluate everybody. Some people are more physically gifted, more coordinated. Some people pay attention, some people don't. If this guy's always just talking to his buddy, or if he's too shy to participate, or she's too shy to participate, it's going to be tough to get them in the door. You know what I mean? So we're going to look at all these things, and then we're going to, maybe all of them, maybe 5 of them, but we'll hook them up with a mentor, a stunt person in the community, who's willing to spend the time with them over the next year to show them how to make a resume properly, how to work their way to get onto stunt lists, how to approach coordinators, where to look for work, where to train, who to train with, what kind of different trainings you should do, what kind of equipment you should buy as far as pads and harnesses, and so just get that first year of all that stuff in, which probably took us 5 years to figure out, along the way. So just giving them a leg up and helping them get in the door, and showing them, there you go, there's the opportunity. Do the work. Yeah,
that's beautiful, man, because it is you are kind of like walking in blind into this industry, because they aren't really, it's not easily accessible for most people to know that this is a viable industry. And the fact that you're following up the mentorship, because that's the most crucial part of it. Like a lot of these, like a lot of larger NGOs are like, oh, there was one, when I was in high school, for instance, there was one organization where we were like building a school for like $6,000 or something. I was like, would you want to send your kid to a $6,000 school? Like, but then what happens is a lot of these places get built, but there's no follow-up.
Yeah.
So it's initial $6,000. Hey, optics, look, we did a thing, but there's never a follow-up. So you go back a year or 2 later, school's fucking not there anymore. Students are wherever, somebody pocketed some of the money. So as important as it is to facilitate these kind of weekends, I love that you were actually following up to make sure that these, because that's kind of what is needed now, is this next decade is to take these kids, potentially, who knows, one of the kids in this weekend in 10 years is going to be the next big coordinator that's going to bring in people from his band, his family, and make that a possibility.
Exactly.
Kind of help teach them the way there. But it is very important to have these steps you're taking. And
the weekend seminar is just the spark.
Yeah, like that's just to get everything going.
And if it sets a spark off in any of them, that's great. But now you got to give them the fuel for the fire.
Yeah, like
right?
you gotta, and also like for you, like you and your mentor or your master.
Fumio Demura.
Fumio Demura. Are you still in contact with?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so like it's important, because even me, my capoeira mentor, we touch base now and then still, but I am so appreciative of having, like you were saying, when somebody helps you out, you do your best, to show them, hey, look, this is what I did with what you gave me. Like, you gave me this penny, I was able to make like $1 out of it.
When I first came to Canada, upon his request, go to Canada, you'll probably get started quicker there.
Yeah.
And then I would go back to California, and I would compete at the tournament and stuff like that. And of course, I was still in the organization and still training and stuff. And every time I'd show up, let me see your resume. And he was never so proud as the day that my resume got bigger than his.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah. And then once, I progressed into being a stunt coordinator and directing and stuff like that, he just was over the moon, And there's nothing more genuine or better than a mentor that wants to see you do better than them. You know what I mean? That's the real heart right there. And that's what I want to see out of some of these people that I'm helping along,
Man, it's interesting. This last hour I've just been talking to you. You were very quiet, sensitive dude. Like you're very kind. You can tell in your eyes you're genuinely. It's just a pleasure to be around you and talk to you. I just want to say
it's funny, you know, how that comes out sometimes, and other times, like people say, "Oh, Lash is tough. You know, you better toe the line," and you know, and he can. And I'm like, I'm not a screamer, I'm not a yeller.
It's your eyes,
man. But I'm business when we're on the set for sure,
yeah,
you know. Yeah, so I've been endeavoring to crack more smiles on set, I guess, or whatever. I just get focused, right? And sometimes.
But even now, just talking to you, I see like because when I like you reminded me of like Terminator on set. I was like, this dude is like T9 or T19 or T9 or whatever. Like it's just like when we were when we were about to do the ARAM last week, like boom, blinders, like you're paying attention to that. So I could see how some people could think that of you, but now like it's the way you talk with your eyes about like topics like when we were talking about Panama and how life changing that was.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing part of the podcast is also to kind of bring people insight to who these performers are, because there's a mystique between when they watch action, but there's a separation where they're not aware of who these performers are. But these are like very sensitive performers that are like artists. They're
well, that's why I call this program Action Artist Mentorship Program.
Yeah.
Because when you're performing this action, and if you're performing it properly and with the performance that I was talking about earlier, you are an artist.
Yeah.
You're enhancing the story through your movement and the emotion that you bring to that movement. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you're an artist as much as any actor is. I mean, it's just a different style of acting, that's all. Yeah. So when we're not recognized by the Academy because it's not art, you know, it sure sells the movies. Yeah. You know, you go and watch Fury Road, Mad Max, and you watch the trailer. Now pull all the action out of that trailer and watch what's left. Would you go see that movie? Probably not.
It's an 8-second trailer. It's Tom Hardy pissing in the desert. That's the trailer.
Exactly. No, it's a crazy, awesome lifestyle. You know,
it's beautiful, man.
It's just I couldn't imagine ever doing anything different, and people ask me if you would have done anything different along the way, and I can't see it. I can't. This is my life and the way it's supposed to have gone and the way it's supposed to go. You know.
So like right now, I'm moving into a new section of my life where like me and my wife are trying to have a kid, all new to me.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any advice as a performer, as a dad, and all these things that I maybe next year might have to look forward to? But do you have any advice? Like any time I get a call and it's to do like something crazy, that's what I'm always waiting for. I'm like, how crazy is it? It's like, oh, how high? Except for when now it's like, oh, I'm moving into this paternal part of my life where I'm now wanting to I'm tired of myself, so I want to experience life through somebody else's eyes. Do you have any advice for a dad that's a performer?
It's interesting, you know, because I'll definitely admit that I screwed up that a lot along the way. My kids understand it now because they're all in the business. It is very hard to be a parent and a partner when you work in this business, because you're going to get distracted and pulled away, and especially I was always chasing the big gags. Yeah. And you got to focus on that shit. You know, it's like, you know, hey, can you pick up something? No, I'm going to go fall off a 100-foot building, and I am thinking about shit that I got. You know, sorry, maybe you could grab the groceries. I know you got all the kids, but you know, so it's you got to find the right team player for sure, and you know, and communication, because I think often I didn't communicate enough. And I thought that my partner should have understood, but if I would have opened up more and explained to them what I was feeling and why I had to be so focused, and you know, they can't always see. They don't go to work with you, so they don't know what you're up against. You can tell them, oh, I got to fall off a 100-foot building tomorrow on fire, through a window, whatever. Yeah, that sounds dangerous, but you know, you got your whole team there helping you out. You know, they don't know the aspects of it, so you've got to share that with them properly. And you got to let them know what it means to you, and that can be a really juggling match, because you know, your wife and your children should mean everything to you.
Yeah.
And they're going to feel like all of a sudden this is more important.
Yeah.
And so it's a really fine line to walk in saying, well, this is how I make my living, and this is how I'm able to provide for my family. And it takes a lot of focus because it is dangerous, you know, at times. And it's not just dangerous to you. If you lose focus, you are liable to hurt someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that will cause you never to work again. Yeah. And that will cause your roof to implode on your house, you know what I mean, sort of thing. So it's just a constant form of communication.
Okay.
I mean, I'm lucky now. I've been through 3 marriages, right? This business can be tough on it, and when your focus is one way all the time, it's tough on your partner, and it's tough on your kids, and hopefully they will understand, and mine have grown to understand, like I said, since they work in the business. But I've got the best partner now ever, and she works in the business as well. She understands everything, and we communicate well, and it always seems to work. And that's, again, it just comes down to the communication.
Yeah, because I guess that's a huge point, because I just assume that they know. It's like, oh, but that's a problem I'm trying to get better at.
Yeah, no assumptions.
No assumptions.
Make no assumptions.
Yeah, making an ass of everyone.
you as you walk in the door, there should be a sign there that says "Make no assumptions."
Make no assumptions. Yeah, and so Lash, thank you so much for coming here and sharing so much. Like, when's your book coming out? When's the...
You know what? That's funny. I've been pressured about that several times by different people, and
yeah, like honestly, I
tell you what, I've started something.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'll finish it, and I kind of get on it, and I get off of it, and I get on it. But I lost my mother last year, and she was an incredible woman. She lived 4 lifetimes, and the things that she did should have been in a book. And my sister and I pressured her for years. Probably from about 75, and she passed away when she was 85. For those 10 years, Mom, you got to write it down. You got to, and I bought her a recorder so she could just talk it, and you know, yeah, I will, and you know, went to her house after she passed away, and we found that she had started writing, you know, but just too little, too late. But some of the stories were amazing, like just one about my grandfather that she started talking about, because he was born on the farm. Yeah. And he was delivered on the farm, and they paid the doctor with a pig. So he came in a horse and buggy, delivered my grandfather, got paid with a pig that he put in the buggy, and rode back off to town with it, sort of thing. And then my aunt, or I guess she'd have been my great aunt, my grandfather's sister, complained that they should have kept the pig and sent him back.
It's hilarious.
So these sort of things were coming out of my mom that I'd never heard before, you know, but she was starting to put it down on paper because she started, you know, back from her first memories. But so I went, you know, I don't want that to happen to me when I go and my kids go, Dad, I wish, you know, I can't remember that story he told me. I wish he'd have wrote it down, you know. Yeah. So whether it's a book or just memoirs from my family, I don't know what it'll end up being, but yeah, I'm trying to document some stuff because I've lived I've worked hard for it, but I've worked a very blessed life to have the experiences that I've had and gone the places and met the people, and you know, I mean, you never meet such extremely phenomenal and bizarre people as you will in the film industry, right?
So true.
You know what I mean? Like,
so true.
The Steven Seagal stories I have are a whole nother book. A whole nother book. But where else would I meet somebody like that?
Yeah.
Where else would you get those kind of stories?
No,
you just can't buy that kind of stuff. So it's pretty crazy. And I mean, working with Tom Cruise, Jackie Chan, Al Pacino, Chuck Norris, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, all these guys have touched me in different ways mentally, you know, and some of them have horrible egos, and some of them have none. Yeah. And that just blows my mind that this guy's as big a star as that guy, but that guy blew his career because his ego got out of control, you know. And it's just like, keep it humble, keep it level. You know what I mean? You're gonna have your peaks and valleys. Yeah. But try and find that line to walk, and you'll have success, and you'll be happy, you know.
But what do you use to follow that line? Like where do you, there's a certain calmness to you, and that's kind of what I'm trying to like explore more in my life. He's
That came from my martial arts background.
That's your martial arts
Yeah,
background.
yeah. And when you said blinders when I'm on set, that comes from my competition days.
So it's like I'm game on.
I'd get in the ring, and my sensei would be hollering at me, throw a side kick. I would never hear any of the... I was just focused on my opponent.
Yeah.
I didn't see a crowd around me. Nothing. It was just me and him in that ring, and the referee kind of peripherally went in and out every now and again. And if he tried to stop me, then I paid attention to him. But other than that, it was just that. And so when I'm doing a gag, it's just that. I don't hear, I hear the instruction from the first AD or the stunt coordinator that's calling it out, because my focus is like that, because that's part of it. But other than that, I don't pay attention to peripheral stuff that doesn't concern me at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that helps keep me grounded and keep me level. And I had a good conversation with my daughter riding horses yesterday, and she said, Dad, you're the happiest guy I've ever met. She goes, I'm only 22, but I met a lot of people, but you're consistently happy.
Yeah.
When you have a lot or when you don't have a lot.
Yeah.
It's just because I know what I can live with and live without.
Yeah.
And if I have more, that's fine. But I know I can survive in a tent in the woods and be happy, out with the Embra if I had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, life is good, You just got to open your eyes and smell the roses once in a while, and I've been so fortunate because I do what I love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know people don't all have that opportunity. And I had shitty jobs before I got in this business, and I couldn't imagine still working on the oil rigs or digging ditches as a pipe layer or working on the power line crews and, stuff that I did growing up.
Because that beats down your spirit.
Oh my God,
Yeah, like there's... it's funny, I felt that people were... when a cell is like... when a cell is produced in the body, it knows where it's supposed to go. Like the bone cell goes to the bone, the muscle cell goes to the cell. But I feel like as a society, we're supposed to kind of function like that. Like there's certain people that are have skill sets that they're meant to use. But I feel like the interruption is when a lot of like the muscle cell gets sent to the toe. Like that's people's jobs. They're all of a sudden in a career they're not meant to shine in. And they're forced to believe that that's all they have is that. And it is kind of scary when you have a family, to try to pursue a passion. You have to take care of your family. But that's the great risk and great reward part of it, right? And so what type of advice would you give anyone to have the same type of calm bravery to step into the unknown as you do?
I would say, especially if you're trying to do this business and get in this career, be genuine.
Yeah, okay.
Because too many people try to suck up to somebody so they can step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're just genuine, if you love what you're doing, and if you do the best job that you can do, that guy over there might do a better job.
Yeah.
But if he's got a bad attitude, or if he's an asshole, and if he's not genuine, you're going to get called back before that person. Because people sense that. They can feel that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're being Hollywood fake,
Yeah.
And some people say, well, I see so-and-so make it, and they're as fake as they... Yeah, some people get lucky. But just be consistent. That's what I mean about that line. Just be that person that, and your career will just continue. You know what I mean? And people will want to have you around because you're genuine.
So that concludes episode 7 with Lauro Chartrand-DelValle.
Woo!
Woo! Absolute pleasure, and honestly, thank you so much. That's, you have the type of energy I'm trying to strive for, that calmness. And thanks for giving us a glimpse into what made you the silent assassin you are. And I'm excited to see where this program this weekend goes moving forward. And I would love to have you on next year, and then we can kind of see where some of these kids are at. Maybe.
Cool, yeah.
And that helps me with my consistency and keeping it straight. But besides that, is there any top 3 LASH rules that you could maybe give to some of the performers that are coming up now? You've given us quite a bit, but is there the final chapter of your memoirs? What are some of the 3 lessons?
It's so funny that you said 3, because that's what I always tell them. The 3 L's.
The 3 L's, okay.
Look, listen, and learn.
Look, listen, and learn.
If you do those 3 things, success is yours.
You hear that? Look, listen, and learn. So stay training, stay focused, take those chances. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience?
Be genuine.
Be genuine.
Be truthful.
Yeah. Come from the heart, right here. Let that shit shine.
So I asked where they can find him online or social media.
Yeah, and so where can we find you online?
I have got some social media accounts. So Director LASH Lauro is one of my Instagrams, and LASH Lauro 65 is another Instagram. And I just did a short film called Rumbo First P.
Cool.
It's a spoof on Rambo First Blood.
I dig it.
So there is a Rumbo First P Instagram as well.
Copy.
So we're just finishing up post on that one, so that should come out pretty soon. But those, I mainly stick to Instagram and a little bit of Twitter here and there. I got off Facebook because there, especially over the past year, there's been so much crap going on, and
Yeah,
so I may end up back on there. But that's just my name, and I can be found that way. But
Awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks.
And
man.
it was really good working with you last week too.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right, take it easy. Peace out.
Don't get it twisted. I'm on my mission, oh yeah. New rebels. We the new rebels. Ay, new rebels. We the new rebels. Ay, they be saying good is bad, they be saying bad is good. Everybody got it misunderstood. I don't know what happened, everybody get to tripping. All the Christians get to slipping. Seem like everybody switching, everybody get to going off the deep end. They was doing good until the weekend. They ain't hit the floor with the knee bend. They was going strong but had a weekend. Oh Lord, I ordered the truth.